Okay, simple.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, one and all. In the last session, we discussed how to develop REST API, which will take HTTP post request. Good. In last sessions, we learnt about below concepts. We discussed about below topics. What are the topics that we discussed? We discussed what is REST controller is going to do. If you want to represent your Java class as a distributed component, then we will use @REST controller. We discussed @get mapping. If you want to bind your method to a GET request, then we will use GET mapping. Then we discussed about @post mapping. Post mapping is used to bind our method to HTTP post request. Then we discussed about what is request param. We discussed about what is request param and path variable. We discussed about what is request param and what is path variable. And another important thing we discussed about produces attribute. We discussed about produces attribute. Okay. Then we discussed about consumes attribute. We discussed about produces attribute, consumes attribute, and we discussed about accept header. We discussed about accept header and content type header, accept header and content type header. Are you guys able to follow me? Did I discuss all these topics in the previous classes while developing REST API? And we discussed about postman also. And we discussed about one more thing called request body. We discussed about one more thing called request body. Request body will be coming in the first place in the second tab. Request body also we discussed. Good. Let's quickly revise these topics. Why? Because now I am going to develop an application by using all these concepts, guys. Whatever we have learned so far, by using all these concepts, we are going to build one complete application. We learned these topics piece by piece. We learned these applications piece by piece. Okay. Now we are going to develop one application by using all these concepts. Before going to do that, let's quickly revise what is the purpose of each concept that I have mentioned here. Now, first one is REST controller. First one is REST controller. REST controller is the annotation which is used to represent our Java class as distributed component. It is used to represent our Java class as distributed component. Okay. Next one, GET mapping. GET mapping annotation is used to bind our method to HTTP GET request. Then post mapping. Post mapping annotation is used to bind our method to HTTP post request. The next one is request param. Request param is used to read the data from the URL. Okay. 3 parameters we are going to read by using this request param annotation. The next one is path variable. Path variable is also used to read the data from the URL. It is going to read the path parameters from the URL. Then what is request body? Request body is used to read the data from the body of the request. Whenever client send a request, some data will be sent in the URL, some data will be sent in the body. If we want to read the data from the request body, sensitive data, secure data, clients will send in the body. Then to read that data, we are going to use request body. Okay. The next one is produces attribute. Understand carefully, guys. Produces attribute. Produces attribute will represent in which format REST API can provide the response. In which format REST API can provide the response will be represented by using produces attribute. And the next one is consumes attribute. Consumes attribute will represent in which formats REST API can take the input. Produces means in which format it can provide the output. Consumes means it will represent in which format REST API can take the input from the client. Okay. The next one is accept header. Accept header represents in which format client expecting the response. Content type represents in which format client providing the input. Response entity is used to construct the response. Response entity is used to construct the response with the status code and request response body. Guys, these four are confusing. These four parts are confusing for the people. Am I right? These are confusing? Little bit confusing or not, guys? These four are little bit confusing or not? Produces represents. I'm writing once again, guys. I want to make you more clear on this four because most of the people will get confused in the interview at this point only. Produces, consumes, accept, content type. If you understand those four, REST API development is easy. Produces represents in which format REST API method can provide response. In which formats REST API method can provide response to clients. Produces represents in which format REST API method can provide response to clients. Okay. Consumes represents in which format REST API method can take data from clients. Consumes represents in which formats REST API method can take input data from clients. Are you guys clear? Produces means in which format REST API method will provide the response to the client. Consumes represents in which formats REST API method can take input data from the clients. Next one, accept. Next one is accept. Accept header represents in which format clients expecting response from REST API method. What we need from the REST API, what we are expecting from the REST API. Accept header represents in which format clients expecting response data from REST API method. Are we expecting XML data? Are we expecting JSON data? That we will represent by using accept. Then what is the purpose of content type? Content type header represents in which format clients sending request data to REST API method. Samjha? Guys, these are bit confusing, guys. You should be more clear on these concepts. Produces represents in which formats REST API method can provide response to the clients. Consumes represents in which formats REST API method can take input data from clients. Accept header represents in which format clients expecting response data from REST API method. Content type header represents in which format clients sending request data to REST API methods. I hope these points are clear. If these points are clear, then we can develop on one application. REST controller, get mapping, post mapping, request param, path variable, request body, produces attribute, consumes attribute, accept header, content type header, response entity. Samjha? Shall I move on now? guys, please respond. Shall I move on now? Okay. Let me take one requirement. Let me take one requirement. Okay. Now, here guys, there are two applications available. Okay. There are two applications are available. Now, let me take this scenario as Irctc application. Let me take one scenario as Irctc application. Indian Railway Catering Tourism. There is a very lengthy full form is there for Irctc. But Indian Tourism Railway Catering something is there, guys. Anybody know the full form of Irctc? Anybody know the full form of Irctc? Come on. Fine. We don't need that actually. Okay, Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation. Somebody sent the message. Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation. Okay, good. Irctc application is available for us. Can you book train tickets using Irctc? Can you book train tickets using Irctc? Yes, we can book train tickets by using Irctc. That was the main functionality of the Irctc. Is there any other website that you can use to book a train ticket apart from Irctc? Is there any other website that you can use to book the train tickets? Yatra, Atra, Atra. Can we see Make My Trip? Make My Trip. Let's go to Make My Trip. Make My Trip. Gobibo. Gobibo, Make My Trip, Atra. There are several. See here, Make My Trip. Do we have any option called trains booking here? Do we have any option called trains booking here? Click on trains. Click on trains. From Hyderabad to, I want to go for Hyderabad to Bangalore. On 31st of January, traveling date. Okay, sleeper class. Search. Hyderabad to Bangalore, I want to go on 31st January. I'm searching for the trains. Sleeper trains I'm searching. Okay, so what they are saying, sleeper class 385 available, free cancellation available, 3A, 2A, Vainagana Express, YPR, Sampark, KRT, KCG, YNK Express. There are some trains are available. But tell me, who is the real owner of this Indian Railways? Make My Trip is the real owner of the Indian Railways. Irctc is the real owner of the Indian Railways. Irctc is the business owner for the rails. Irctc is the owner. Irctc application is the owner for the Indian Railways. But how come you are able to book a train from Make My Trip? How come you are able to book a train by using Make My Trip? Come on, guys. That means business to business communication is available here or not? Business to business communication is available or not? Okay, business to business communication is available. Okay, right, guys. Now that means application, this Make My Trip application is communicating with Irctc application or not? Make My Trip application is communicating with Irctc application or not? Make My Trip application is communicating with the Irctc. Okay, so here there is one client for Irctc application which is called as Make My Trip. There is one client for Irctc which is called as Make My Trip. Can I say Make My Trip is acting as one client for Irctc? Can I say Make My Trip is acting as one client for Irctc? Come on, guys, respond. Okay, that's good. Good. We identified that Make My Trip is acting as a client for IRCTC. Let me go to another website called Yatra. Let me go to another website called Yatra. Yatra. Okay. In Yatra, what are the options are there? Flights, hotels, villas, buses, holidays, cabs, trains. Oh, here also we have a trains option. Here also we have a trains option. Okay, now set for the trains. Can I book trains from Yatra also? Can I book trains from Yatra also? Yes or no? Can I book trains from Yatra also? Yatra is also one platform where we can book the trains. Yatra is the owner for the trains or IRCTC is the owner for the trains? IRCTC is the owner for the trains. That means Yatra is also acting as a client for the IRCTC or not? Can I say Yatra is acting as a one client for IRCTC or not? Yatra is also acting as one client for IRCTC or not? Yes. Let's go to some other website. Go iBibo. Go iBibo. Okay. Do we have an option called trains here? Do we have an option called trains here? Select the city name Delhi to Bangalore or Delhi to Mumbai. Choose your train Rajdhani Express. On the date I'm selecting January 29th. Search for the trains. Okay, CMST Rajdhani train is there. Tejas Raj, PDDS Yuva, Rajdhani, Kranti Raj, Duronto. There are some names, Golden Temple, like that there are some trains names are available. So guys, tell me, who will manage all these trains? Do you think that Gobibo having their own railway? Or they need to use Indian Railways? Gobibo having their own railway, huh? No, in India there is only one railway, Indian Railway. But how come these applications are providing the facility to book the train tickets from their applications? Already IRCTC available. Okay, if you go to IRCTC, happily you can book the tickets. Happily you can book the tickets. Train ticket you can book happily by using IRCTC. Okay? But why Make My Trip is providing that functionality? Yatra is providing that functionality. Go iBibo is providing that functionality. Go iBibo is providing that functionality. Come on. Business to business communication. To improve the business, IRCT provided the services to other applications. Okay, now simple example, man. IRCTC is the owner for the Indian Railways. They are providing the facility to book the train tickets from the IRCTC. When the facility is available to book a train ticket in the IRCTC, why these applications also providing the functionality to book the train tickets? They are improving their business. Make My Trip is improving their business. They are increasing their customers. They are increasing their revenue. Okay. But this Make My Trip is owner of the railways, huh? No. Who is the owner? IRCTC is the owner. But why these applications are providing the facility to book the train ticket? Make My Trip is having some customers. For their customers, they will provide some offers. Cashback मिलता है आपको 50 rupees cashback. Do you get any cashback from IRCTC? Do you get any discount from IRCTC? No, IRCTC is a government project. They don't give the discounts. But can you get the cashbacks from these clients? Can you get the cashback from these companies? These are private companies. These are private. IRCTC is government. Modi ji कभी भी नहीं देता है discount. But these companies, Make My Trip, Yatra, GoBibo, these are private. They provide offers. They will provide cashbacks. They provide discounts. Samjha? Okay. Now, let's think about this application architecture, guys. Let's think about this application architecture. Who is acting as a resource? Who is acting as a resource? Who is acting as client? Who is acting as a resource? Who is acting as a client? Come on. IRCTC acting as a resource. Make My Trip, Yatra, GoBibo acting as clients. That means, can one resource application have multiple clients? One resource application can have multiple clients? One application can act as a resource for several clients. Several clients application can access one resource application. Okay, now let me increase the box for this IRCTC. Okay, now this is IRCTC application, very big application. IRCTC application. IRCTC application. It's a very big application. Indian Railways. Indian Railways. Complete Indian Railways information will be available in the IRCTC project. Okay, guys. Now IRCTC directly having the facility to book the tickets. That means IRCTC is acting as a web application or not? IRCTC acting as a web application or not? Come on. IRCTC acting as a web application or not? Yes, there is a user interface. Directly you can go here and you can check for the trains and you can book the train ticket. It is a web application. At the same time, IRCTC acting as a distributed application also. Web plus web functionality, web application is available. At the same time, distributed functionality is also available for IRCTC. Okay. Now, tell me, can we write the REST APIs within the web application? Can we write the REST APIs within the web application? Yes or no? The best example is IRCTC only. IRCTC is doing C2B communication as well as B2B communication. Come on, guys. IRC doing two types of business. IRC doing what, guys? Two types of business our IRCTC doing. What is the two types of business that IRCTC doing? End user can directly access IRCTC, can perform the operations. So this is called as customer to business. This is called as what? Customer to business. Customer can directly communicate with the IRCTC. At the same time, here Make My Trip also can communicate with the IRCTC. Make My Trip is communicating with the IRCTC. Yatra is communicating with the IRCTC, and GoIbibo is also communicating with the IRCTC. Make My Trip is communicating with the IRCTC. Yatra communicating with the IRCTC. GoBibo communicating with the IRCTC. So what kind of communication it is? What kind of communication it is? B2B. This is called as what? B2B. IRCTC doing business. Make My Trip also doing business. Business to business. Business to business communication. That's where these applications are called as distributed applications. These applications are called as distributed applications. Are you guys able to understand how applications are going to develop in the real time? C2B nothing but end user can interact directly with your application. User interface will be available. Web interface will be available for your application. That is called C2B. Customer can directly use your application. That is called C2B. Front end will be available for your project. Customer can directly access with the user interface. If your application contains a user interface for the end user, then that application is providing C2B operations. If your application is providing business to business, then that is called as B2B communication. No front end. Directly one application can communicate with another application. There is no user interface. There is no forms. Web services. That's where it comes. It's called as web services, REST APIs. REST APIs will comes into picture when we are talking about B2B communication. Okay. Now tell me guys, here who developed REST API? Who consuming REST API? In this architecture, who developed REST API? Who is accessing REST API? IRCTC developed one REST API. IRCTC contains what guys? IRCTC developed one REST API. IRCTC developed one REST API. Who is accessing that REST API? Who is accessing that REST API? All these three applications are accessing that REST API. Okay. So in the IRCTC there is UI. In the IRCTC there is UI, user interface. End users can directly interact with the IRCTC. End users can directly interact with the IRCTC. You can create the account in the IRCTC, you can log in, you can book the ticket, you can check the PNR, you can cancel the ticket, whatever you want you can do. You can act as a customer for the IRCTC. Got my point guys? At the same time, in the IRCTC, REST API is also available for business to business communication. Make My Trip can communicate with the IRCTC. Yeah, Make My Trip is already communicating with the IRCTC. Yatra is communicating with the IRCTC. Go Ibibo is also communicating with the IRCTC. That means in the IRCTC, user interface is available for end users, and in the IRCTC, REST API is available for business to business communications. Guys, are you getting my point? What is business to business communication? B2B, C2B. What is C2B? What is B2B? Are you getting my point? What is C2B and B2B? Are you getting my point? Clear for all of you? Now guys, now I have couple of questions. Who will send the request? Who will send the response in B2B? In this diagram, who will send the request? Who will send the response? Come on. Client applications will send the request. REST API will send the response. Okay. Now tell me, all clients will send the request in the same format, or they may use multiple formats? Make My Trip, Yatra, Go Bibo will use only XML. They will use only JSON. They may use multiple. Make My Trip may use XML. Yatra may use JSON. Go Bibo may use XML. They may use multiple formats for sending the data. Okay. Now, all these three clients will expect the response only in the XML format. Only in the XML format. They will expect the response only in the JSON format. No. Now tell me, all three clients are sending the request to the REST API. How this REST API will understand data coming in which format? Client is sending the input data in which format? Client is expecting the response data in which format? How my REST API will understand? Here, there is not one client, guys. There are three clients available for my IRCTC REST API. I am developing my IRCTC REST API. How my REST API will understand in which format client is sending the data, in which format client is expecting the data? How this REST API will identify that? Sudhir, you are giving a wrong answer, man. How REST API will understand in which format client is sending the data, in which format client is expecting the data? That's where accept and content type comes into picture. That's not consumes and produces, man. Why are you talking about consumes and produces? Idiots. From last 2 days we are discussing same thing. Again you are giving wrong answers. What is my question? How REST API will understand in which format client is sending the request data? In which format client is expecting the response data? Why are you saying consumes and produces? What is my question? Listen carefully. Guys, nobody will explain you in this much detail about REST API. But still you are giving wrong answers. Still you are giving wrong answers. If it is offline class na, I would have beaten you red and blue. What is my question? How REST API will understand client is sending data in which format, client is expecting data in which format? Clients are responsible to specify accept header and content type header. What is the purpose of accept header? What is the purpose of accept header? Data client is sending in the request. Data format of the data client is sending in the request. What is the content? What is content type? What is content type? The data which client is sending in the request. What is accept? In which format client expecting the response. Accept means in which format client expecting. Content type means in which format client is sending. Okay. Now I have another question. How clients will know which formats of data that REST API will support for input, which formats of data REST API will support for output? Come on. Do you understand my question? How clients will know input format supported by REST API, output format supported by REST API? Consumes, produces. Consumes, produces. Are you guys getting my point? Why the REST API will support for multiple formats? Do you understand the scenario? REST API are dealing with only one client, or REST APIs will deal with multiple clients? REST APIs will deal with only one client, or REST APIs will deal with multiple clients? Multiple clients. When the REST API dealing with multiple clients, do you think that all the clients will follow the same format for input and output? No. That's the reason REST APIs are supporting for multiple formats. Consumes, produces. Content type, accept. Still people are giving wrong answers about consumes, produces, content type, accept. Bhaiya, please read these points, man. Please read. I have explained the concept. I just asked questions by changing some. I played some trick to ask the question. You got confused. I have explained the concept, but I asked the question in a different manner. I just played a trick. You got trapped. You gave wrong answer. You have to concentrate on the topics, man. These topics are your life. Nowadays, everything is REST API. In the real time, everything is REST API. Samjha? Yes, Rakesh, we can do that. Right, guys. You people got my point, why REST APIs will support for multiple formats of the data. Now you guys realize why there are multiple formats of the data supporting by the REST API. Come on. One REST API can deal with multiple clients. When it is dealing with multiple clients, clients will deal with multiple data formats. Make my trip, suppose see here, they prefer only JSON. Okay. They prefer only XML. Atra prefer only XML. GoBibo prefer only JSON. GoBibo will prefer only JSON. Is it possible? Can REST API support for these formats based on the client requirement? REST API can support for these formats. Yes or no? Yes. But these clients should tell to REST API how they are sending the data, how they are expecting the data. What is input data format? What is output data format? Accept content type. Content type means in which format client sending the data to REST API. Accept means in which format client is expecting the response from the REST API. Good. Now, so by keeping multiple clients in our mind, we need to design our REST API. My REST API should support for both XML data, input data for input. My REST API should support both XML data and JSON data for output. So now, guys, whenever we are designing the REST API, do you think about only one client or we need to think about multiple clients? When we are designing the REST API, are we going to think about only one client or we need to think about multiple clients? Come on. Simple example, man. When I am teaching these classes, am I considering only working people? If I consider only working people, Spring Boot can be completed in 45 days. No need to spend this much time for working people. If I teach the class Spring Boot for only working people, complete Spring Boot can be completed within 45 days. But why our course is taking 3 months, 4 months? Tell me why our course is taking 3 months, 4 months? I'm considering
Recording in
my trip
progress.
may use input as a XML. Let me tell you the scenario. Here they will deal with input as XML. Now they want output as a JSON. Now these people are giving input as a JSON. Output they are expecting as XML. And these people input is JSON and output is also JSON. Input they are expecting, they are providing in the JSON. Output they are also also expecting in the JSON. Okay, like this, people are having different requirements. Okay, make my trip will deal with input XML data, output JSON data. That means make my trip will send XML data as an input for the IRCTC, and make my trip is expecting output as a JSON from IRCTC. Yatra is giving input as a JSON to IRCTC. Yatra expecting output as a XML from IRCTC. Go IBMO, input output they are considering as only JSON. There may be another client. Which will deal with only XML for input, XML for output. Okay? Now here let's take it. There is one more application called PhonePe. In future, they may provide the facility to book a train ticket. In future, they may also provide the facility to book a train ticket. Okay. Now, these people will deal with only XML. For example, input they are giving as XML, output also they are expecting only XML. Now, this is how the client's preference. This is what the client's preference. Okay. Now you should be careful. While developing the REST APIs or not. PhonePe already having the facility to book a train ticket. Okay, very good. Then very good. It's already having. Now consider that. PhonePe loves XML. PhonePe will give XML data as an input for the IRCTC. PhonePe is expecting output in the XML only from the IRCTC. Okay. So there are multiple clients are available. So tell me, client to client, the format of the data is changing. Format to format is changing from client to client. Now our REST API should support for all these formats or not? All the client preferences or not? REST API should support for all the client preferences. Okay. So whenever a request comes from the make my trip, input data will come in the XML. For make my trip, output should go in the JSON. Whenever request comes from the Yatra, input will come in the JSON. Output should go in the XML. Whenever request comes from the Go IBMO, request will come in the JSON. Response should go in the JSON. Whenever request comes from the PhonePe, input data will come in the XML. Output data should go in the XML. So client to client, the requirement is changing. Now tell me, as a programmer, do you need to write all these conversion logics in the REST API, or these are common logics for every REST API which Spring Boot will take care? Why Spring Boot is providing these common logics? This is not only my project requirement, this is a universal requirement. Every REST API should deal with this kind of formats. Every REST API may have multiple clients. When we are dealing with multiple clients may have multiple formats to support. That's the reason that is not our headache. Converting XML to JSON, JSON to XML, is it programmer headache? It is the Spring Boot headache. That is common requirement. Got my point? I hope now you got more clarity. Why accept content type should come in the request? Why client should send the accept content type in the request? Why client should send accept and content type in the request? Come on. REST API should understand in which format client is sending the data, in which format client is expecting the data. Based on that, conversions will happen by the Spring Boot. Conversion will done by the Spring Boot. Chalo. Good. Now, with this knowledge, can I tell you one requirement that can you guys develop as a homework? I hope I gave you more clarity. Is it clear than last session now? Good. Good. Requirement, guys. This is assignment for you people. Requirement, which is an assignment for you people. Develop a REST API to book train ticket. Develop a REST API to book train ticket. Develop a REST API to book train ticket. Input passenger data. Okay, that is name, email, phone number from to journey date. Passenger data, name, email, phone number from station to station, journey date. Okay, then train number. We can take some other fields also, that's not an issue. Now output should be ticket data, ticket ID, status, cost, ticket ID, status, cost, PNR, from to journey date, passenger name. Okay, input should support XML and JSON. Output also should support in the XML and JSON. This is my requirement. This is how tomorrow clients will give the requirement to develop a REST API. Develop a REST API to book a train ticket using below details. Guys, you got my point now? Develop a REST API to book train ticket using below details. Okay, develop a train ticket. Develop a REST API to book a train ticket using below details. Good. Next, endpoints. Book ticket, endpoints. I want two endpoints. One is book ticket, another one is status, another one is ticket with PNR. Two endpoints I have. Two endpoints I want. One is book ticket, another one is /ticket to get the ticket data. Okay, book ticket to book a new ticket. Get the ticket which is already booked. To get ticket which is already booked using PNR. Ticket will have a PNR number, na? I need to get the ticket information by using that PNR. I will pass the PNR as a path parameter. I want to support both the XML JSON data for input and output. Okay, where to save the data? You can save that in the database. If you don't know how to use the database, you can save it in the map also. It's up to you where you want to save the data. I will not tell you. That's your choice. It's a task for you. Can you guys come up with this task for tomorrow's class? If you can develop this task, that means whatever we have discussed so far in the REST API, everything is going to cover in this task. Is everything covering in this task? Whatever we have discussed so far in the RESTful services? Whatever I have explained in the RESTful services as of now, is everything covering in this requirement or not? Did I explain all these topics? How to develop a REST API? how to deal with XML data, how to deal with the JSON data, how to deal with the post request, how to deal with the get request, how to pass the path parameter, how to pass the query parameter. Everything is explained piece by piece. But now we are combining everything we have learned and we are developing one application. Don't develop a client. You don't know how to develop a client. I just want to develop a API. One REST API I want. Don't develop any client. I don't want you to develop the client. I want you to develop only one REST API. That REST API I should be able to test it from the Postman. Okay. If you don't want to use the database, then use map. You can store the data in the map. You can store the data into map. I want you to develop by using layered architecture, guys. I want you to develop by using layered architecture. Samjha? I want you to develop this by using layered architecture. You will get full clarity on the REST API development if you do this task. Why you will hardcode the data, man? I want you to write REST controller, service, DAO. That is layered architecture. That is layered architecture. Got it? All of you clear with my requirement? Are you guys clear with my requirement? So please develop this requirement before coming to tomorrow's session. Whatever we have learned so far, by using them, we are building one application. One complete application we are developing. Good. Thank you guys. You can start working on that requirement. You have time till tomorrow 9 p.m. 9 p.m. tomorrow we have a class. I will call the people names randomly to show me that task. You should show me your code and you should be able to test your code by using Postman. I will share these notes in the website. Okay? I will share this requirement document in our website. Class notes I am providing in the website. I will share that in the website now. I want you guys to download this requirement and I guys want you to complete this requirement before coming to tomorrow. Guys, I am giving my best. If you don't practice, if you don't take it seriously, then that is your karma. That is your karma. If you don't practice it, if you don't develop this code on your own, if you don't practice, that is your karma. Okay? Good. Please practice it.
Recording stopped.
And guys, one more thing. Please stay online. Have you guys seen that? I'm starting the new batches for DevOps and AWS. So many people are asking, sir, we want your DevOps and AWS, which is required for everybody nowadays in the market. So in my current project, we are using DevOps and AWS. So I'm starting DevOps AWS new batches from next week. So please inform to your friends. In the Telegram channel, already I have released the posters for that. So you can see here, DevOps poster is released. That is going to start from 31st January, 7 p.m. IST. Okay. AWS is going to start from 2nd February at 8 p.m. IST. Okay. DevOps will start at 7 p.m. AWS will start at 8 p.m. AWS DevOps combined course will be available. Okay. So please inform to your friends who are interested to learn from me DevOps and AWS. Okay guys? Yeah, DevOps with AWS combined course is going to be 12,000. If you take only AWS, it will be 8,000. DevOps with AWS combined at 12,000. Only AWS will be 8,000. Okay, good. Thank you. Please inform your friends, guys, and please share this status poster in your group so that your friends also will know that we are going to start the DevOps and AWS batches. So I need your support in promoting these new batches which I am starting, DevOps and AWS. Okay, please take this poster and share it in your groups, guys. In our Telegram channel, you can find those groups. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please complete that task before coming to tomorrow's session. Please complete that task before coming to tomorrow's session. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Two. Oi.